Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Thursday, August 29th, 2019. Wanted to do an update on Hurricane Dorian. Last night during the live broadcast, we reported that we expected a Category 2, Category 3 possible hurricane at best. But that's not the story anymore, as we have a little bit of an update on that, and the track of the storm is now coming in focus a little bit better as well. Let's take a look at some of the information that we have in front of us right now. There is our current water temp situation. So as the storm approaches Florida, it is in warm water, and there's very warm water that surrounds the area that it's going to make its landfall. Now, where exactly? We go over here to weather.com. And they kind of give us a little bit of a timing here on what we're looking at. So this storm is going to make landfall somewhere. Let me get my handy dandy blue arrow out, folks. So we're looking at the storm making landfall somewhere in this area, but it gets a little worse than we thought actually in the first place. Now, by any means, this is not going to be a catastrophic. Well, there are some life-threatening flood situations and high winds that are concerning, but as this storm progresses up the coast, it will lose some of its strength, but it's going to pack a lot of punch when it comes to winds as it approaches Florida, and the amount of moisture it's going to drop is going to be concerning as well. So let's look at it here right now. Currently, we're sitting at, well, let's get the actual stats on this hurricane here. We don't have to guess. So let's take a look. Right now, we are talking about sustained winds of 85 miles per hour. Our central pressure is at 986. So we are currently above the strength of a Category 4, a Category 1 at this point. But the movement of this storm is now moving northwest at 13 miles per hour. That speed has continued to stay the same as well. So what are the main concerns about this storm? The risk of life-threatening storm surge and hurricane force winds this weekend continues to increase in the northwestern Bahamas, and hurricane watches could be issued for there tonight or Friday. Residents should have their hurricane plan in place and listen to advice given by local emergency officials. There is an increased likelihood of life-threatening storm surge, as we said, along portions of Florida East Coast late this weekend and early next week. Although it is too soon to determine where the highest storm surge will occur, residents should have a hurricane plan in place. That sounds just like what I just read. Really, the big issue they're pushing here, folks, is the amount of rain. Let's take a look at what GFS is saying. A lot of yellow here, so anywhere between the 12 inches of rain and 20 inches. GFS is indicating we could probably see somewhere along those lines an isolated 20 inches. Now, that is not what they're forecasting right now. They've got it scaled down a little bit. Here's the amount of rainfall that we're looking at. The orange is in the highest. They are talking about 15 inches isolated areas in that orange box. So mainly about 5 to 10 inches of rain is what they're calling for Jacksonville, Orlando, Miami. Those are some of the areas I called out the other night as well. This is the damage from wind from this particular storm, and as these things get over land, they lose a lot of that wind. But this one's going to be bringing a lot of moisture with it, and as you see, by the time it makes landfall by Monday night, this is Labor Day, we should see at least Category 3 strength, possibly Category 4. As it makes, and they're projecting it to be a Cat 4 right now at this point. So very, very dangerous storm heading towards Miami, Melbourne, and Jacksonville. As I showed the other night on the broadcast, the storm, which I'll show you the spaghetti models as well. But we originally thought that we were looking at this storm in the first place hitting Jacksonville square on. The landfall right now, the idea so far, and this is as of tonight, Thursday night here, August 29th, but somewhere around Monday evening into Monday night, we will see landfall closer to that to Melbourne than we will Jacksonville. But this is where we could see the Cat 4 storm make landfall right here into early morning Tuesday. Now, as this storm approaches land and makes landfall, I mean, Miami, you're going to be affected by this as well. Very heavy rains possible in your area. And this storm, this is 24 hours in after making landfall. So we're talking about a storm that is moving just in one day, not very far. Landfall was right here on the tip where my tip of my arrow is, and now the entire portion of Central Florida is inundated with Hurricane Dorian. Now at this point, she's going to be somewhere around a 2 or even a 1 actually at this point when it's over land. Winds at 75 miles an hour are still dangerous though. All right, by any means am I downplaying. This is where this forecast gets a little interesting, and again, this is early, but as Dorian makes its way through Florida, literally up the entire state to Jacksonville, and that's where the concerns of heavy rain and flooding begin as well. This is Thursday, September 5th, so Jacksonville, be ready for a good period of probably you're going to be looking at somewhere between 8 to 12 inches of rain in just 24 to 36 hours, along with these outer bands. But look at this, Thursday night, finally, this system is making its way out of Jacksonville, but now it's affecting Georgia, South Carolina, and heading towards North Carolina. This is a pretty decent sized rainmaker, folks. By this, it should be just a tropical depression, maybe still a minor Cat 1 as it gets back into warmer waters. And let's go back and find that temperatures of our waters. So our storm is going to try to hang out a little bit on the coast. Somewhere right here. And the water is where the storm is right now. It's where it's strengthening as it's moving towards here. So the temperatures are still going to be favorable. We might have to watch for a little bit of re-strengthening here, honestly, as it rakes the coast at this current track right now, if it continues. But look at how massive this storm becomes here. September 7th, Saturday, the following week, so after Labor Day is over, the next weekend, we're still dealing with Dorian, and he is raking the coast all the way up North Carolina, heading towards Virginia. As finally, by Sunday morning, this storm is finally starting to push away from the East Coast. As of right now, New York City, Philadelphia, New Jersey, all those areas, we're out of the woods at this point. But all it takes, I mean, you guys see how close this thing is to the coast as it makes its turn out to the Atlantic. Now, I want to look really fast and check out what we're looking like here in the North Atlantic. Is there any blocking going on? Does this, if there's blocking here near Greenland, the concern is going to be for if this storm could actually ride the entire East Coast. And we're still more than a week out from that possibility, but we're still kind of keeping an eye on this. And right now, we do have conditions favorable for blocking to set up over this area here near Greenland. Bear with me, folks. I'm only as good as the technology, I guess. As the storm starts to go up the coast, that low pressure system does move near Greenland, almost wedging out that high pressure system, which I think is the saving grace at this point for this storm not hugging the entire East Coast through its entire process here. This is the Monday following after Labor Day. So this storm is going to make landfall early Monday morning, maybe late night Sunday, and a week later, this is where it'll be located. But still a ways away, and while we're here, we're going to check out other models as well, not just the 18Z, but let's go ahead and check out the 12Z. I know a lot of people were running on that tonight as well, and it's just, you know, tropical tidbits right now, I can only imagine is probably being crashed. So I'll go to another screen as we're waiting for that to load back up. But yeah, they're calling for a state of emergency, and they're telling people not to mess around with this. The flooding surge, the wave lengths, the wave heights, I should say, are not going to be anything to mess with. Coastal sections of the southeast could see at least 5 to 10. locally 15 inches. And that's just on the coastal parts of Florida. I'll be curious to see how long this storm actually hangs around in Jacksonville, as I indicated earlier. And let's see, we got most of this loaded up here. So let's take a look at this storm in the 12Z. Again, that model is matching almost identical to what we were just speaking of. This one model has got it a little bit more inland, but ooh, I don't like that. So there's the scenario that we don't want. And a lot of that has to do with, and let me guess, there's high pressure in Greenland, and the 18Z is showing us something different. So let's see what's actually happening at this point. Yeah. So the 12Z is a little bit more favorable of this storm actually raking the coast. Let's take a look and see where it has it on September 10th. Near New York City, we could be dealing with coastal flooding. In New England, by the 12th, that storm finally gets out of town. High pressure builds in, bringing cooler air behind it, by the way, in the Midwest and the Northeast. So that is the 12th. Now let's take a look at the dreaded 0. The worst of the worst most of the time, right? And again, I'm going to get a slow load on this. Take a little few seconds here. So again, all the runs, all these models are, I would say, agreeing that we are going to see landfall. Now, this model run is showing what we first saw a couple days ago, which was Jacksonville getting the brunt of this landfall. The storm stalls out, reaches inland, and then basically kind of fizzles out. And that's an interesting scenario as well. So we get two ideas of what would happen if this storm goes a little bit further to the west as it makes landfall. All right. The 0 is showing us that this thing goes further inland and it could track back up in the Northeast before really wreaking. So still, there's two models that are showing a possibility that we could see a storm that hugs the entire East Coast. But this is the model that most folks go with. And right now, as of this point, we're over a week out at September 8th. But these models here at the 18Z are showing that this storm is going to shove off by next week. So Dorian, already a problem now, and is going to be a problem for a while to come. As most of the week, next week after Labor Day, Jacksonville. I mean, look at this. You guys start seeing rain bands from this storm right around Tuesday, Jacksonville, Florida. And Wednesday, it moves further inland, going north up Florida to the Panhandle. And by Wednesday, we start to see the heavier rains hitting Jacksonville, Florida, and southern parts of Georgia, heading up to South Carolina. Look at that. So heavy rains in Florida, heavy rains in Georgia and South Carolina. North Carolina, absolutely. Very heavy rains near the Outer Banks, as this storm on September 8th is pushing off of the East Coast and heading out to the Atlantic. Again, we're still over a week out for this scenario right here. So we're pretty confident about what we're saying for Labor Day weekend. And that is, it is imminent that Central Florida is going to be hit with a hurricane, Cat 4 likely right now. And if this current track continues, it will rake the coast. Now, earlier I thought we were going to have a couple of different models show us that we were going to see this thing possibly go across Florida, maybe make a brief appearance in the Gulf, re-energize, and then make another landfall heading into Mississippi, Alabama, something like that. But there's a lot of confidence now that this storm is going to move across Central Florida up to the Panhandle, Jacksonville, kind of stall out a little bit before start hugging the East Coast. So a lot of these spaghetti models are also coming together where we like this favorability of going back up the East Coast. A couple do have it going out, stranding off into the Gulf, but none of them really have, nothing with too high confidence anyway has anything going up into inland through the south and then back out to the Atlantic on the East Coast. So It looks like right now they're pretty confident about the short-term track for the next 4 days. And by Monday, we know where landfall is going to be. Tuesday into Wednesday, Jacksonville, you're going to be pretty much under heavy rain for 24 to 48 hours continuously. So we're going to see lots of flooding, lots of wind damage, lots of structure damage, lots of flood damage all up and down the East Florida coast and also around the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina coast as of now. So in a couple more days, we might have a better idea if this storm decides to hug the coast and create more damage up the East Coast. So it's been a quiet hurricane season this year, and we are finally starting to see a little bit of action as we usually do around September. So this is almost like right on cue as we hit September 1st, September 2nd, September 3rd, we will have a full-blown hurricane situation to deal with. Actually, by the 1st of September, we will be dealing with a full-blown Cat 4 hurricane right knocking on our doorstep on Sunday. So again, this is just an update. Last night, I might have downplayed this a little bit. They were only calling it a Category 1, strengthening to a possible 2 or 3. I wasn't very confident at the time that we would see a strong storm, but boy, a lot of the forecasts out there have blown up today. So just wanted to get out of here real quick and offer a quick update on the storm, what we know, what we're expecting, and what's to come. Guys, tune in tomorrow night. We will be live as our usual Grand Solar Minimum News update, our evening news edition, plus our solar update on Friday morning. Until tomorrow night, guys, take care and be safe out there and get your plans together right now. We'll talk soon.